us on today's edition of the Market Report. I am Adefola Olamilekun. Quite interesting and very insightful. We're looking at a very dicey topic on today's show, particularly although we have two segments of our interview. But first, we'll be looking at the behavioral effect of investors on Nigerian stock market. Joining me all the way from Kaduna, from the Air Force Institute of Technology, is Dr. Bolaji Jimoh. A very good day to you, Prof.
Good day.
All right, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right, sir.
Nice having me here.
Exactly.
I'm not a prop yet, so don't call me prop.
All right, sir. Doc, you are highly welcome, sir. So let's get the ball rolling. On the first stage, in terms of looking at the behavioral effect of investors, a lot of persons will come in and people want to know what is behavioral behavior of investors. Can you help us out, Doc, sir?
Yeah, when we are talking about investors, behavioral effect of investors, so we are talking about the behavior of investors. That is to say, those other emotional factors that normally affect investors and affect their decisions. Most especially when they have some other factors that is other than the natural things that we know in finance that affect decision. For example, when you talk about panicking, you're talking about overconfidence. You are talking about the reaction towards what others are doing because it's hacking behavior. For example, you find out that some people are investing in a particular share, and because people are saying, this social share is selling, and it's going to be profitable, you now rush there. We can't look at those natural factors that you're supposed to look at. So this makes you to behave irrationally. So those are the things termed as behavioral effects.
Very interesting. But as you rightly pointed out, what are those natural effects? Because I do have a follow-up question to this, but most of our viewers we want to ask, what are those natural effects that an investor is supposed to look at in your own perspective, sir?
Yeah, naturally, you see, the word behavioral effects cannot be taken away from what is obtainable now. Traditionally, in finance, it is believed that investors behave rationally. So if, for example, an investment is performing poorly, you will see people running away from such investment. But these days, because of speculation, because of other factors that are irrational factors, people can decide to still invest in those things. Some of those rational things before, you are looking at, okay, when will they pay dividend? You are looking at what is the history of this investment. You are looking at all those factors, so that those are the normal factors that normally they look at. But now you see them looking at other factors such as hacking factors, prospect factors, overconfidence. So those are the things we are referring to.
Exactly. I'll take that from you, Doc. Particularly when you made mention of overconfidence. Let's quickly assess the Nigerian stock market for the first quarter. In the first quarter, there was this overconfidence that we came into 2025 because of the performance of that stock market in 2024. But all of a sudden, we saw that the first 3 months in the first year of 2025, it was a rallish outing that showed a bearish outing. But in this perspective, what was your assessment of the first quarter of Nigerian stock market from your own point of view? I know, being someone that is very using academic perspective as well as an industry player.
Thank you very much. If you look at the first quarter of Nigerian stock market, you will see that is relatively resilient. There's relatively resilient performance despite the macroeconomic variables that are actually supposed to make it not to be resilient. You look at the fact of inflation, you look at even other naira volatility. So all these are actually supposed to affect. But despite that, you will see that there's still resilience in the stock market as at the first quarter of 2025.
Very interesting.
It actually shows a moderate growth. There's a moderate growth in the stock market, most especially due to banking industry, the telecoms. You will see they actually do well, and even the oil sector. Unlike all other sectors that were not performing fine.
Exactly. I will take that from you, Doc, because a lot of analysts, experts, and academicians like you in the financial sector of Nigeria express optimism that even though we have a very low performance in the first quarter of 2025, talking about Nigerian stock market, they are very optimistic that this 2025 second quarter will be better. But taking a look at two issues that normally come up when we are analyzing Nigerian stock market, apart from the behavioral issue, the aspect of sentiment. I think, Doc, you can help us to understand what is sentiment and what is behavior of investors. Because a lot of people will hear investor sentiment, investors behavior. Are they close range or they are quite different?
Yeah, they are closely related. However, there's still a thin line in between two of them. When we talk about behavioral effects, the investors' behavior is actually broad. If you look at it, it's talking about all those psychological things that affect their decision making. For example, we are talking about emotions and cognitive factors. This is what the behavioral this is what the investor behavior is talking about. Then when we talk about investor sentiment, we are only looking at two things. Their reaction towards whether that's their mood or attitude towards whether the stock market is going to be bullish or bearish. So whether it's going to be positive or negative. So their reaction towards that is what the sentiment is talking about. Thank you.
All right. So let's also look at the aspect of, are there challenges when investors behave some way to the stock market? When they behave, you already understood the behavior I'm trying to point out, Doc, but are there challenges to the stock market when investors behave the way they behave? Let me put it that way.
Yeah, you see, for the capital market, the effect of behavior can either make it to be positive or to be negative. And that is why you see at times, traditionally, we say, for example, now oil prices hit what happen in stock market. Traditionally, that's the argument of so many people. In fact, if you look at the renowned professor of capital market, which is Professor Uwaleke,
exactly,
which is my mentor, he actually also is also from that school of thought. That's fine. There are a lot of factors that affect you, but one of the main factors that affect this capital market is oil prices, government policy, and the rest of them. But look at what happened in Nigeria. If you look at it, in fact, at the time that Nigerian stock exchange was declared, stock market was declared as one of the best in the world. You will find out that the likes of Venezuela, the likes of even Saudi Arabia, that are oil-dependent nations, they are not doing fine. So you will now look at it that does that now collaborate that is oil prices? No. It means there is no correlation. It's not oil price alone that takes this. So it means that there are some other factors. So that's why the likes of behavioral factors are considered. So what we're saying now is that the behavioral factors can either affect it positively or negatively. That's where I'm going.
Exactly.
Now, positively in the sense that it can make the capital market to become best performing in the world. That is to say, to make their performance to go, even as at when all other indices is showing that no, the capital market is not supposed to perform. And whereas where those other indices are showing that the capital market is supposed to now go up, for example, the price of oil is going up, then it's expected that it will go up. You will find out that no, it will not, because the behavior of the investors, instead of them not to buy, they start buying, panic buying. Instead of not to sell, they start selling. And instead of them to trade, they decide to become indifferent, not to trade. And this is what the bureaucratic factor can cause to the capital market.
Exactly. Now, another issue around this, what you have just pointed out, is this. Most times when analysts like you are talking about this issue about challenges in the capital market, effect of global price of crude oil and the rest of them, we also take a look at the political stability within the Nigerian sector, for instance. How far has the Nigerian political stability impacted Nigerian stock market from your own perspective, Doc?
Yeah, from my personal perspective, we say Nigeria is doing good when it comes to the effect of policies on the capital market. Most especially from the angle at which is being attacked. You know, the federal government is trying its best to ensure that policies are formulated that will promote our stock market, because, as we said earlier, stock market is one of those indices that actually shows whether an economy is doing fine or not. It's serious because the capital formulation, we're talking about reinvestment and the rest of them, is taking place easily in the stock market. So government politically, we found out that the effect of the politics on Nigerian capital market is okay.
And when you talk about the effect of the politics, just recently, last year, April 4th, President Tinubu signed the ISA. I know you are aware of the ISA, Investment and Security Act 2024 into law. And that alone jubilate and bring about jubilation in the Nigerian stock market, industry players, and the rest of them. From your own angle, how do you react to it?
Exactly, that was what I was trying to tell you. That there are some policies that even the current government is bringing on board to protect and promote the capital market. And the essence is simple, is to actually attract foreign direct investment. And that is why Nigerian capital market did very well as at last session, as at last year. Did very, very well. So this is a continuous policies that are actually making the Nigerian capital market to go up. Well, thank you.
All right. Now let's also look at another angle to the issue we are looking at: the behavioral effect of investors on Nigerian stock market, particularly the capital market as we express right now. Now, last year and some years back, I could recall since 2020, we have been seeing a very bullish outing on Nigerian stock market. But there is a reason that most of our analysts, even Professor Uche Waleke, also alluded to it, that domestic investors are now playing key role in Nigerian stock market. What was your reaction to that, sir?
Yeah, that is it. Because I can tell you that it has, the bubble effect that we had to 2009, around 2008 to this actually affected a lot of local investors to lose confidence in the capital market, and that makes them to go away before. But if you look at it now, from 2020, you will see that local investors are even participating highly because a lot of things were done. And some of them is educating even the local investors to know that, look, investing in the capital market is one of the best investments you can have. And it's not as if you just invest without trading with it. So this is why you see most of the investors are now coming back, and you see with all this policy of government and the rest of them protecting the capital market and promoting it. That's why you see them participating heavily in it.
Yeah, exactly. Now let's take a look at the regulator, the Security and Exchange Commission of Nigeria. In the last couple of years, they have done so much in terms of bringing sanity, integrity to the Nigerian stock market, and a lot of people have applauded them. And I know your own evaluation also, you definitely want to applaud them. But let's take a look at what are the things they are not doing now they need to do in terms of pushing the stock market forward.
Yes, you see, both SEC and Nigerian
Exchange
Group, NGX, you will see they have a lot of roles to play. And one of them is what SEC has started, which is protection frameworks. These protection frameworks need to be there so that investors will have confidence that investing in capital markets in Nigeria will actually help them to upscale their investment. And also, there's a need for SEC to promote retail investors' education. It is important. People are not yet, people are being educated about stock market, but you still find that a large number of retailers, that is to say individual investors, a large number of them still need to have more education about this stock market and how it works. So there's supposed to be some of the programs, scholarship programs like this that we are having to educate people more about stock market. Also, there's need to enforce market integrity, which is through proactive regulations. There are some regulations that is supposed to come up with that will make people that will increase the integrity that is on ground. Because when there's integrity, that's why you see people will have confidence in investing. And there's a need to encourage the innovations such as crowdfunding. Because you see, in Nigeria, for example, now crowdfunding has not even yet achieved anything in Nigeria when you compare to other developing worlds. The same thing also, there's a need to create a digital platform, for capital formation. Then at the same time, the SA group also needs to promote corporate governance. among listed firms, and also ensure that there are some emerging sectors that needs to come on board. For example, now tech industry in Nigeria is supposed to be listed. Most of the tech industries are not listed. Most of the agri industry, companies, firms are not listed. There are very few that are listed. And this is the drivers of the economy. So when they are listed, you find out a lot of people will want to invest in them.
Exactly. Now, let's look at one perspective that have just been unbundled into the ISA now. Cryptocurrency, digital asset, and other virtual means of using money to trade have come into the perspective of Nigerian stock market. What was your reaction to that? Because the ISA brought all this innovation that you've made mention earlier.
See, that act is a fantastic act, as we said earlier. Because you see, the world has gone beyond where we are still living. The likes of using all these blockchain instruments, all these cryptocurrency and the rest of them, is what is needed to be done to promote, in fact, to encourage more of foreign direct investments and to ease payment and buying of stocks. I hope you understand.
Very well,
that's
sir.
why it's a good one. Thank you.
Now, talking about payment of dividends, just last year ending of the stock market year for Nigeria, when all the companies started bringing out the audited account, it was discovered about 6.8 billion undeclared, unassessed dividends is holding. And there are issues. Why is it that we are still having a problem that people cannot assess their dividend, especially from the angle that when SEC or NGS become technologically driven, a lot of people who are having stock or having money in the Nigerian stock market were taken out. So what's your own understanding of how we can break the barrier of allowing people to assess their dividend at the end of the financial year?
Yeah, I've actually told you that one of those things is to encourage digital platforms. You understand? And a lot of education. A lot of people are not educated about all these, their dividends and the rest of them. Some bought shares as far back as 10, 15 years ago, and they forget about it. As we talk now, some people are still having share certificates. There was some people that actually contacted me of recent. What they have sitting down is more than I think about 3 million naira worth of shares. And yes, they don't go. They bought them and they just got the certificate for a very long time, over 15 years ago. Some of even banks that they bought these shares from have actually merged and the rest of them. So people need to be educated, and there's a need for digital platforms. Thank you.
All right. Now let's now take the aspect of one of the key issues that anytime we are analyzing the Nigerian stock market, we always break down to take analysis of it. By May 19, CBN will be meeting, the MPC meeting will be meeting. Another key factor that they normally look at is the interest rate. From your angle, what's your review of the coming CBN MPC meeting, and what is your expectation towards interest rate? Are you thinking that they will jack it up, they should maintain the status quo, or they should go lower than the status quo?
If you look at it very well, the meeting is coming up on the 19th of May 2025, which is just some days to come.
Exactly.
And a lot of players are actually keen, looking at how will this, what is going to be the result, that's what they are going to come up with in that meeting. You see, monetary policy rates is very, very important. But it is actually used to tame inflation. And one of the major problems that we are facing in Nigeria now is inflation. So, in order for what we are expecting, what the analysts and the players are actually expecting, is for signals. We are looking at signals that will help, to show that, look, if this thing is a little bit tightened, it will reduce inflation rate. Because the inflation rate, exchange rate instability, is actually ongoing in Nigeria. Because the exchange rate is still dancing around 1615, 1615 in the black market. Whereas you also see that the inflation rate is still to be very high. Despite the fact that we said it's reducing, it's still high because once the inflation rate is more than a single digit, it's high. That's what we consider as analysts. Even though some analysts don't look at other factors that may have resulted in this. However, I don't want us to discuss that. What we are just looking forward to is when the Monetary Policy Committee meets in May 2025, we are expecting that they will slightly tighten it. You understand? Slightly tighten monetary policy rates so as for inflation to go down.
Exactly. Now, another aspect of the CBN PC meeting, although you pointed it out, the exchange rate, which has become volatile. I just read a report this morning how manufacturers in Nigeria are under the weight and burden of volatile exchange rate. But for the stock market, what are the challenges that exchange rate bring in that normally discourage investors in that regard, sir?
Now, if you look at it, if you look at the first quarter, that's why I said there was a slight performance, there's resilience because of performance. However, if you look at those ones that were able to be resilient at even in the market, you find that they are the likes of the banking industry.
Exactly.
All together now. So you will see that manufacturing industry was not even performing fine in the first quarter, and it all still boils down to the profit that they are declining, because when you declare profit that is not much, when investors see that the profit is a sign, is a signal to show that this firm is not performing. As a result of that, we will not invest. So that's why you see their investment in first quarter is not good. It's not fine. You can say it's not good. They are not performing fine. That's manufacturing firm. And it all still boils down to the fact that the inflation has affected their performance. And where inflation affects their profitability, then you now see that investors will start having challenge in investing in such. So generally, the exchange rate affects companies' performance. And this will now signal the investors not to invest. So that is why you see that their prices will be falling down. The price of their stock will be falling down.
I really love your submission so far, Dr. Jimoh, and you are also make us understand, the essence of this behavioral effect on the Nigerian stock market. Before I let you go, let's quickly take some other aspect of the issue at hand. Just yesterday, I know you are also concerned about tax reform. Companies are also concerned about tax reform in Nigeria. Just yesterday, the Senate has passed 2 of the key bills into approve it into law. We are expecting the other 2 to be approved today or maybe tomorrow. But in your own perspective, from the exercise of the tax reform that have been taking place, how has the Nigerian, industry player in the stock market and the rest of them been looking at this tax bill, and how it's going to affect the business of the day in Nigeria?
You see, this tax reform, if analysts can actually sit down and look at it, you will see that it's coming to do more gain than harm. Because definitely it will kick up, it will make firms to perform, because most of the firms that are actually, it is a progressive tax, not a regressive one. And when you have a progressive tax, you will see that low-income earners that don't even have investment opportunity before, because most of their money savings has been eroded through tax. We have the opportunity now to invest. So, on the other hand, you will see it actually helping them to jack up the interest of investing in the capital market. So we are expecting that the aftermath effect of this policy is going to affect the capital market positively.
I really, Doc, I'm quite impressed with what you just said about the tax reform, because a lot of analysts have said that both the good side of it and the other side of it. Although we are looking at a situation whereby this tax reform will bring harmonization in all tax law in Nigeria. But before I let you go, in just 1 minute, what will be your advice? You talk about education to Nigerians in terms of the stock market, but from this perspective now, can you also educate Nigerians briefly on the Nigerian stock market and draw their attention to the benefit there is much accrue when they bring their money into the Nigerian stock market?
Thank you so much. This is an interesting one. You will find out that investors, or let's look at the general, because investors already are aware of the reasons why money needed to be pushed into investment in capital markets. Because you see, it gives an opportunity for people to actually own part of organizations that ordinarily they cannot think and develop an organization and grow the organization like that because of the management issues. So it can make you sit at the convenience of your home and say, oh, Coca-Cola bottling company, I own 2% of Coca-Cola bottling company. For I'm just citing an example. I probably try to run away from most of those. I probably use a broad general knowledge that people know Coca-Cola bottling company because it's like an household product that everybody is consuming. You understand? Or Pepsi-Cola, you understand what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So that's why I don't want to mention name so that it will not be as if I'm advertising for any company.
Exactly, sir. Exactly.
So that's why I'm saying that. So it's an opportunity for people that don't actually have a firm that is started by themselves to start having part investment in those firms. And be sure that most of the organizations most of the investors that invest in capital market, they don't lose their money easily. Unless this bubble stuff that we talked about. If not, you find out that investment in capital market is far better than investing in even starting a business of yours. If you are starting a business of yours, that's why you see, analysts have said, from scholars, they've said actually, out of every 5 businesses that start within the first 5 years, it is only one of them that survive. The remaining 4 will die. However, if you have used your money to invest in firms that are already existing, you will see the fact that your money will be protected because management of such firms will ensure that their priority is to maximize shareholders' wealth. So it is good you invest in capital market.
Exactly. Doc, I can't thank you enough for this brilliant submission that you have made, particularly by helping us to understand the thin line between sentiment, investor sentiment, and behavioral effect on Nigerian capital market. And we also really want to appreciate you for coming on the show and being your first time, but we hope that more time will be given and you have the opportunity to be part of Ambassador of the Market Report on ADBN television. Thank you, Doc.
Thank you so much. I'm grateful.